So, the new trial chamber has easily become my favorite structure in Minecraft. I guess when you make an entire update about one thing, you get a really high quality result. Who knew? The entire structure is extremely well thought out, and following the development of the update was crazy. After a while, I kept thinking, surely they're done with the trial chamber, and they're going to move on to something else, but they just kept adding more and more to it. I think this style of update was very interesting, and I'm extremely happy with the end result. But with all of this said, I still have some questions. What is the trial chamber? It can't have just appeared out of nowhere, right? Did someone build it? For what purpose? Why is there this giant dungeon just randomly sitting underground? Why isn't it ruined, like most of the other structures we see in the game? Why is the new Breeze mob exclusive to it? Well, those are all questions I aim to answer today, but before we start, hi, I'm the Dandalorian, and I come up with theories and analyses on games. We're currently trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so if you enjoy this video, leave a like and subscribe. But with all of that out of the way, let's get into the video. So, who built the trial chamber? This is probably the easiest question to answer, and it will help us answer the rest of them. Throughout the different Minecraft structures, we see the hands of ancient societies, people who built structures and then disappeared. I will refer to them as ancients from now on. We can assume that the ancients also built the trial chamber. If you look at these structures, there are some very clear time period differences. The Trail Ruin and Ancient City are probably a lot older than things like the Stronghold or End City. Where does the Trial Chamber fall in this timeline? Well, due to the lack of damage to the structure, it literally doesn't have a single cracked or missing block, I think we can put this pretty close to the current day. This structure would have been made around the same time as the Stronghold, if we are assuming the Stronghold was the last thing these people made before going to the end. We can explain why the Stronghold is ruined because it's more exposed to the elements, or because it's made out of a weaker material. The trial chamber is completely sealed, so it would be harder for moss and other materials to get in. So with that established, let's move on to the harder questions. What's the purpose of the trial chamber? Let's look at what the trial chamber does. Its main features are the new trial spawners and the vault. From a gameplay standpoint, this makes perfect sense. It's a new challenge with a new way to get loot. But understanding why someone would create this in a real world is a lot harder. So I think we need to start with understanding what a spawner is. There are two types of spawners in Minecraft, the monster spawner and the trial spawner. For the purposes of this video, we're going to be grouping them together because they both do very similar things, spawning mobs. The spawner only appears in structures, never out in the wild, so we can assume that they're not a natural occurrence. There are 13 different mobs throughout 7 structures that can spawn in the world. Most of the mobs appear in other places than the spawners, but there are 2 mobs that are exclusive to spawners and the structures they spawn in. The Blaze is exclusive to the Nether Fortress, and the Breeze is exclusive to the Trial Chamber. Both of these mobs are very similar, we'll have to come back to them in a minute. So, with the information we have, what can we determine? Well, since they don't spawn in the wild, that means that someone built them, but why? And on that note, how do they even work? Are they just creating these mobs out of thin air? Are they transporting them from somewhere? Or is it something else? I don't think these mobs are being pulled from somewhere else due to the existence of the 2 elemental mobs. I also don't think they can be creating these mobs because if they are, why weren't the ancients using it for something more useful, like infinite food or protection? Are they some sort of simulation? If it was, these mobs still drop things, and they can still kill you. So it would effectively be creating new mobs, and once again, why aren't they using it for something more useful? I'm going to be honest, I'm not completely happy with my answer for this. If you think you have a better idea, I'm open to suggestions in the comments. But here's my answer. I think the ancients were using souls from the mobs they killed to fuel machines to bring them back to life, or to create new ones in the forms of the Blaze and the Breeze. Soul energy is an established thing in the Minecraft universe. XP drops from mobs when you kill them, which can be used for enchants. And if you believe one of my other theories, Card in the Corner, Minecraft and Minecraft Dungeons are connected in the same universe, and Minecraft Dungeons has a whole soul energy system. Okay, now we know how spawners work, but we still don't know why. It's pretty clear that the ancients enjoyed playing God. They made machines, monsters, and other creatures. The Wither may have also been an attempt to resurrect the dead, so I think the spawner was another one of those experiments. Perhaps they really were trying to bring back these mobs, or maybe they were trying to make something else and these mobs were the result. Maybe these spawners even created the undead like zombies and skeletons. I also think that the dungeons could have been the first tests of these things. I can't really think of any other reason why dungeons would exist. After they either succeeded or failed in what they were trying to accomplish, they realized that they could do a lot with this technology. They began putting these spawners in structures, most likely as some sort of defense mechanism. They eventually figured out how to create new creatures out of these souls and use them to fight on their side. So now we know how and why spawners work. We know what the breeze is and why it spawns in trial chambers. We know who built the trial chamber and why they created spawners. But we still have one really big question. What is the purpose of the trial chamber? When I started writing this script, I had a basic idea of why the trial chamber was built, but since then, they released new music and paintings for Minecraft. The paintings have a darker color scheme and some of them are pretty eerie. The Creator Music Box version is also pretty creepy. So I began to wonder if the developers were hinting at something darker for this update, and after thinking for a while, I think I found it. See, my original idea was that the trial chamber was a training grounds of sorts. The ancients would have used it to train soldiers to fight these mobs in the years before fleeing to the end. But if you think about it, there are much better ways to train people, especially because the mobs in the trial chamber can be deadly. You could just do traditional combat training to minimize the risk of death. As soon as I thought about this, I realized what this dark twist could potentially be. There's a strange amount of skull imagery in the trial chamber. Why would they have vaults set up, instead of just giving the gear to the soldiers from the beginning? What if the ancients didn't care about minimizing death? What if this wasn't a training arena, but a way to weed out the weak? I don't think that this later ancient society were the good guys. I think that they fully deserved the fate that became of them. So with all of this research and theorizing done, let me present to you the story of the trial chamber. As it had happened many times before, a new human civilization was beginning to form. This group valued intelligence more than others, and as a result, there were many scientists and inventors that became part of the society. Some of them became obsessed with the idea of life. They knew their ancestors had made golems, objects animated with magic, but they did not want to create life, they wanted to bring back those who had died. So they began to work on a project, a device that would have the power to harness the souls of creatures to accomplish this goal. This project was controversial, so they built labs underground, hiding it from the public. Eventually they succeeded in their goal and managed to bring back monsters from the dead. They presented their invention to their leaders, and they immediately saw its potential. They funded the project, and the inventors made improvements, allowing them to condition the monsters to protect them. Over the course of many years, the machines were improved, and they became a mainstay in many of the structures the ancients made. They harnessed the power to create new creatures, and used them to protect them. At some point, a disaster occurred. Monsters became more prevalent, and the ancients became afraid. Over the years, their leaders had become corrupt, and they commissioned their top scientists, not to find a way to fix the problem, but to find a way to hide or escape. In the meantime, they sent their people to fight. Many of them died, and that did not matter to the leaders. Less people they had to defend, less people they had to hide. But the monsters were beginning to become a problem, so they decided to give their people training, but not in a way they expected. They built underground chambers and began to hold trials. They gathered up their citizens when they were old enough and sent them into the chambers. When they defeated mobs, they were rewarded with new ways to keep going. They made it through their rooms filled with deadly mobs and collected loot that would help them with the next waves. Only the strong and the smart survived. Those who did survive were either sent to fight the real battles or assigned to discover the way out. Eventually they did, and the chambers were sealed, leaving them for unlucky adventurers to find hundreds of years later. Well, that got pretty dark, but that's my theory of what the trial chamber is. What do you think? Let me know in the comments some of your theories and if you agree with this one or not. Also, let me know if you want to see me do more theories in the future. If you want to see more now, you can check out my theory playlist in the description. I had fun making this video, and I hope you had fun watching it. But anyways, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.